think it'll run?
You ask that every year. It always runs.
It was true. I bought that van in 1993 for $300, and every year I wondered if it would hold together just one more year and get us where we needed to go. And every year, it did.
Well, it's gonna need a little love. I mean, there's a lot more on the line this time. To some degree, we're relying on it to keep me alive.
We don't leave until next week. That gives you a few days to go through everything and get it in order.
And if it's too risky, we can call it and do something else for vacation.
We can even spend it here. At least we're still getting away from everything. But you'll probably find a way.
Yeah, I usually do.
That's not to say that going off the grid on a VAD doesn't need careful planning. Taking an electrically powered heart on the road would require a complete redesign of the power system we used for remote camping in years past. And even on normal years, the van always required some maintenance to ensure it was safe and ready for a long trip.
How's it running?
Good. Might have to have a peek at the brakes, though. Oh boy, here we go.
As scary as it may appear, in the end the van came through for us again. We did the usual cleanup and set up our accommodation for the week in the back. It felt like old times getting it ready for a road trip again. The brake repairs were minor, mostly the result of it not being used for a while. Sometimes vehicles do better when they're driven regularly. We've stuck pretty close to home since I got the LVAD, so the van is sat in storage. All that was left was to work out the power issues. Going off the grid would mean that for the week we were gone, I'd be gasoline powered. The goal of this exercise was to go a full week on the VAD without needing electrical power. The plan was to make our own. Since attempting this involved a number of untested firsts, we decided not to go too far off the grid. We'd plan our trips so power was available nearby, but the objective was not to need it.
So as we travel, we're not going to have access to AC power all the time. So we're going to be trying to make our own for most of the trip. One of the things I need to know is whether we're creating enough 12-volt power for everything. So before we leave, I want to power up the HeartMate power module on 12-volt car power and to see how much current it draws, so I know that my storage capacity of my battery will carry us through the night. I also realized that Ruth has some power requirements for a CPAP machine as well, so we need to have enough battery to carry us through. Now, by my estimates, my original battery was going to last for about 8 hours with those two. Now I've added a second battery and I think we're okay for 12 or more, but I want to test this out just to make sure. So I'm going to power up the power module in the normal manner but instead of plugging it into AC power, we're going to try and run it on car power and look at how much current it is drawing. That's going to look like this. So beep and squeak. Now we'll plug it in to automotive power. Ah, silence. Blissful silence. It's happy. It's running on car power. And it is drawing about half an amp, which is very small. That's not much power, but it's not doing anything yet either, so I'm going to connect myself to it. And we're going to check and see how much power it draws running my heart pump. I'll switch this over. Everything from here on is just like when it's running on AC power. Okay. No change there yet. Oh, look at that. I saw something happen. Switch the... It hasn't changed much yet. That's interesting. Okay. It is now running my heart pump. Well, it's not bad. That's drawing about 1.5 amps. I'm drawing about 1.5 amps. So that's pretty easy to work with. This input is actually rated for 5 amps, and I did my calculations at 5 amps. And that's probably a worst case scenario if it's recharging its internal battery and running my pump at full out. Nominally, just sitting here, it looks like it's about 1.5 amps or less. So that is good news. That means that our storage battery will last a little bit longer. So I'm very happy with that.
An already unseasonably cold autumn really outdid itself that morning. We awoke to fresh snow, sub-zero temperatures, and a major storm wreaking havoc down south. Our plan for day one would have us driving right into it. But as the morning wore on, temperatures recovered a bit and the snow began to melt. By early afternoon, things looked a lot better. But down around Calgary, the storm was just getting started. There were reports of multi-car collisions, and they were closing the highway through the mountain pass to Kelowna. That was our first stop where we planned to do some mountain biking. Rather than risking collisions and road closures, we decided to take the northern route across the mountains instead. It seemed simple enough. Just a matter of turning left out of the driveway instead of right. I think we were on the road for about 1.5 hours before it dawned on us that the northern route doesn't actually go to Kelowna. Not directly, anyway, or in any meaningful manner. Guess we're heading for the coast. There's plenty of camping in BC's lower mainland, and the weather might be even better. We could always stop by Kelowna for some cycling on the way back. While driving, it made sense to just stay connected to the power module and save my batteries for when we were away from the van. Charging batteries uses a lot of power and requires running the inverter. The power module could run all day. Our first day off the grid found us spending the night at a rest stop south of Clearwater off Highway 5. While we'd driven through the worst of the weather, it was a cool night, so we had the place to ourselves. This would be the first test of everything we'd put together to power a VAD. It had been a long day driving in sketchy weather, and I was looking forward to some sleep. Ideally, without being awakened by an LVAD alarm in the middle of the night.
What's it like out there? Excellent. Guess I should get up too.
Night 1 went off without a hitch. As we pulled back onto the highway that morning, I watched the voltage recover on our bank of RV batteries as we drove. It looked like our calculations were correct. We had lots of storage capacity to power us through the night, which we could replenish with just an hour or two of driving. I've noticed something interesting about life support equipment. When it's something that absolutely has to work because life depends on it, it's usually designed with at least 2 redundant systems. Think about it. In scuba, we have an alternate air source, and we dive in teams of 2. If one diver's equipment fails, he simply breathes off the other diver's gear until the dive can be ended safely. In the world of LVAD equipment, we see the same redundancy. LVAD patients are powered from 2 batteries. Not only that, they always carry 2 sets of batteries, the ones in use and a set of spares. And it goes even further than that. Your LVAD heart pump can run off batteries, or using a power module directly from AC wall power. That means either your charger or your power module could fail and you'd still have a means to remain alive while you located and acquired replacement equipment. It only makes sense when going off the grid to apply the same level of redundancy. Always travel with your power module and battery charger, because if one should fail, you're still covered. But try to create redundant sources of reliable power too. Prior to leaving, we installed a good quality true sine wave power inverter to run my HeartMate battery charger. It's perfectly suited for the task, but if it should fail, I can't charge my batteries. The solution was to pack along a smaller backup power inverter. The backup is less well suited for the task, and it only produces enough power to charge 2 batteries at a time, but in a pinch, it'll get us to safety. Ultimately though, whether I'm charging my batteries using the power inverter or running my LVAD directly off the 12-volt electrical system in the van using the power module, all the energy needed to pump my blood this week will come from one place, the van's alternator, in turn powered by the van's engine. Both need to be working for me to remain working. That creates a single point of failure. Remember I said that for this trip we were going off the grid, but not too far off the grid? That's how I justify this trip as having redundant power. At any given time, if a mechanical failure prevents the van from generating power, we'll ensure we're within a safe time and distance of AC wall power. I plan to go further afield on our next trip. We know some great places for remote wilderness camping. If the van failed us there, help and power could be a day away by bike or on foot. At that point, I'd pack along a small portable generator to ensure a working source of power and allow us time to safely plan our exit back to civilization. The last thing you want to do is create a chain of events that exposes you to avoidable risk. For example, forcing a VAD patient to attempt a long hike out, perhaps in a storm and maybe on their last set of batteries. Keeping inconvenient situations from actually becoming dangerous is so much easier when you're not rushed. We made good progress traveling and arrived at Cultus Lake around supper time. We were greeted by Najib, the owner of one of our favorite restaurants in the area, who said he saw us on the news back when we successfully attempted the world's first LVAD scuba dive. That was cool. After supper, we headed back to our campsite by the lake for the night.
Hey,
Oh, this is nice.
it is.
Oh, I like this better than the snow.
So what do you want to do today?
I don't know. How do you feel about Teapot Hill?
I'm up for that.
I'm willing to give it a try.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Teapot Hill was a hike we did the first time we came to Cultus Lake.
Yeah, I remember it was a pretty good workout back then, even when I was healthy.
Yep.
Starts out on a road. Well, it isn't a road, it's a trail. It's called Road 918, and it goes up for a while before it branches off to the right. Then there's a much smaller, narrower, steeper trail that goes up the mountain. At the best of times, being on a VAD is like running up a hill breathing through a straw.
Yeah, and it's very uphill.
Yeah, I was worried about being able to climb the steep stuff, but it worked okay.
I thought you did really well.
Yeah, I guess all the rehab was worth it. It's a beautiful day though, eh?
Very gorgeous.
Yeah, we were messing with our friends. We were taking pictures along the trail and sending texts off and telling people we'd gone to Hawaii instead.
You know, some of them even bought it.
They did. It's a true story. Of course, the thing that really makes it worthwhile is the view from the top.
You can't get any better than this view.
No, it's great. You're looking out over the entire Columbia Valley. You can see Cultus Lake with Lindell Beach over at the one end and the town site over on the other end, and somewhere in the middle there, right behind that green tree, should be our campsite. You see?
Yeah. The one that's greener than the others?
Yes, that's the one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's where it is. That's a
I
good tree.
found a rock and I found sun. I'm happy.
And a teacup.
And there's a teacup. Which isn't quite right because it should be a teapot. As this is teapot.
Well, maybe you
Hill.
get a teacup at the end. Maybe that's how it
Yeah.
works.
Maybe.
You're not buying it, are you?
Not for a minute.
But there is a story about Teapot Hill.
Yeah, in the 1940s, some logger was hiking up it, and he came across a teapot right at the top. Hence the name Teapot Hill.
Cool, it's as good a reason to name something as anything else, I guess. Neat part is everybody's kind of run with it since then. There's teapots all over the place, especially on the steep part of the hike. You can look off into the woods and you'll find them in hollow logs and hanging from trees, and it's kind of neat actually to see how many you can count.
You know, if something happened to you, I'd probably take just a little bit of your ashes and put it in like a tiny teapot and hike up the hill, find a really great place, and just leave it there so that you'd always be in a place that's special to both of us.
I'd be okay with that. I'd like to be here. So we had a great hike and made it through day 3 off the grid without having to plug in.
You know, I really enjoyed today.
I did too. This is working. It feels good. It feels normal. It feels like a real vacation. Day 4 began as perfect as the day before. Compared to where we came from, it was paradise and tough to entertain the thought of leaving. I'll admit I had second thoughts about staying as I switched back to van power for the trip.
Switching back to van power. Van power, man.
We were heading back inland and a little further off the grid. It's weird. When you're feeling good and back in a normal situation, like a road trip, there's not much to bind you to the reality that as a VAD patient, you're actually the furthest thing from normal. I guess it's both a blessing and a curse. I love the idea of doing the things I used to, but you can't get so lost in that experience that you forget your present lease on life comes with conditions. No matter how far you drive or how deep you immerse yourself in the experience of life as it used to be, those extra steps required to stay alive and healthy are inescapable. Yeah, so today is blood work day, like any other blood work day, but we're actually not really near a lab.
Nope.
Because we are off the grid, so to speak.
Off the grid.
Yeah, so we've actually got a plan for that. I have to do blood work pretty regularly, as most VAD patients do, because I'm on blood thinners, anticoagulants, and that sort of therapy has to be monitored pretty closely because, well, they use the same stuff they use in rat poison to keep your blood from coagulating as fast as normal. So
yeah, the blood needs to stay thin so that it can pump through the machine.
Yeah, exactly. But not too thin, so I bleed out of every hole I have. So
fine balance, and that's why we need to do blood work on a regular basis.
And that's why it's watched pretty closely, as I'm sure it is in all VAD patients. So we've got a kind of a neat way of doing this. We're going to do it ourselves today. I'm trying out this device, which is called a POC device. That stands for point of care. And this should allow us to measure our own INR, which stands for
International something
normalized ratio.
I know that.
I hope. If not, I said a wrong thing.
Yeah, everyone knows what INR is. No one knows what INR stands for.
It's a measurement of blood coagulation. Yeah. So, this thing works much the same way as I would imagine a blood glucose meter would, although I've never used such a thing. We've got test strips. We have a lancet or hole punch. And the process should be pretty simple here. So I'll take one of these test strips.
Yeah, try to be as clean as possible.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that related to the operation of the machine. Making sure that the machine is calibrated for the strips. It will give you a number here that, and you have to have a chip installed that comes with the strips to make sure that the machine interprets the strips correctly, but we won't get too far into that. So pretty much we start this. It starts a process. I think it warms up the test strip or something, basically, so that it's ready to do the measurement. It'll beep when it does the measurement. So I will make a hole in myself in the meantime. I've washed my hands. Some people use alcohol swabs. We were told as long as we give our hands a good wash, that's good enough. Ouch. Actually, I didn't ouch. And we'll put a drop of blood onto the strip, as like that. It will beep because it's happy. Nope, I got a bleeder sponge. Thank you, nurse.
Paper towels are, our best friends.
They're pretty handy on a camping trip.
Yeah, we have a roll here. We have a roll
We just leave this somewhere. It'll look like we butchered a pig. Yes. Okay. Well, pressure is the solution to making things not leak. So, what do we have here? Oh, I guess we're eating salad tonight. My measurement is 2.9, and my therapeutic range, the range they want me in, is 2.0 to 3.0. Vitamin K can undo anticoagulation therapy, and it's pretty high in leafy greens. So people taking warfarin have to be a bit careful about salads.
Yeah, so that's at the high end, still in the therapeutic range, so that's good.
Yeah.
But at the high end, so...
A day when you're on the high end of the therapeutic range is a great day to have one. So what I do at that point, this is the great part of technology, even when you're off the grid, I will create an email to our LVAD team showing, it just says, hello MCS team, my INR result for today from point of care measurement is 2.9. So basically that's simple. We send it and we're done. VAD team will call me and tell me if I have to adjust my warfarin dose, and I suspect they probably won't tell me to adjust it because they know I'm going to eat a giant salad tonight and everything will be fine. So blood work, that's how it's done off the grid.
Day 5 was mostly a travel day. After a late start, we rolled into Bear Creek mid-afternoon. The overcast, rainy weather didn't really bother us. I'd much rather spend the sunny days doing something outdoors and save days like this for driving. By the time we set up camp, it was raining again. Not much to do, but sit and eat a tomato.
So we're at Bear Creek in Kelowna. I'm gonna eat a tomato. This is probably a very foolish thing to do. It's a very ripe tomato, and I don't think there's any way to eat this inside the van. It's raining, so there's not much else to do but eat a tomato. It has brought me a tomato to eat.
2, actually.
2. So I'm gonna try this, but I'm gonna have to cut it out here because it's gonna be very, very messy. Delicious. Extremely ripe tomato. This, of course, is only going to get more complicated as I do this again. That is a delicious tomato. Dripping tomato guts down the door. It is proven pretty much impossible to eat it that way, so I'm going to stand in the rain and eat my tomato.
Note his weatherproof jacket on so that his batteries don't get wet.
And no salt, like a good heart patient. So your idea was I just chow down on this like an apple.
Yes. Tells you how much I know about tomatoes.
That would
Well,
have
they're
been
pomme de terre. Pomme is apple. So I figured it should work.
That's actually a potato.
Oh, well. Or the potato.
Therein lies the disconnect.
You say tomato, I say potato.
You could completely eat a potato that way. Wouldn't you enjoy
Obviously,
it,
my French is
crunch,
not.
crunch, crunch.
Obviously, my French is not that good.
No, wait. I thoroughly enjoyed my rain tomato. I'm going to come back in and wait for the rain to stop.
Hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm awake.
That is
It's
good.
time for me to get up.
Do you think we should do some cycling today?
I think that would be a great idea.
I do too. It's a very nice day.
A favorite ride in this area is Myra Canyon. It's an abandoned rail bed hanging off the high canyon walls at an elevation of 4,200 feet. As you'd imagine, the views are spectacular. The rough logging road up to it, however, is a different story, pounding our poor van within an inch of its life.
Really scary.
Should loose the toilet paper roll on that road.
Myra Canyon was part of the old Kettle Valley Railway, built around the turn of the 20th century and abandoned in 1980. It was quite an engineering marvel in its day, comprising 18 trestles and 2 tunnels to navigate an 8-mile section of the canyon alone. Today, it's rated among the 50 best bike rides in the world. To take some weight off my back for long rides, I sometimes transfer my spare controller and batteries into a pack I've installed on the bike. It means I have to stay with the bike until I transfer them back, but that's never a problem on a ride. The bike goes where you go. The KVR is a massive trail system of decommissioned rail bed, the longest in British Columbia. In total, there's almost 400 miles of connected trails. Close to the parking lots, the trails are busy with hikers and cyclists. The further out you go, the more you have the trail and its spectacular scenery all to yourself. There's an endless number of technical trails heading down the mountain from the KVR, but this section is easy and safe. The perfect thing for the softer noggin of a VAD patient on anticoagulants. The Myra Canyon Trestle Restoration Society has done a fantastic job maintaining this historic railbed, even after wildfires and severe trestle damage threatened to put an end to riding it forever.
This is cool.
I don't feel we're going down right now.
I think we're going up
Well,
overall
actually,
because we're heading to the highest point, right?
yeah.
The thing about trains is they can't do hills, so you can't have too much elevation gain or drop on a rail line, so it requires some pretty darn clever engineering. Kind of like this.
Yeah, we're gonna head into the next tunnel here.
A little bit of snow up here. So we must be getting to a higher elevation.
Yeah.
We're seeing snow.
If you watch our show, it's pretty obvious that we don't always have the luxury of a camera crew. For this ride, we took turns carrying the camera. I took it on the way out and handed it off to Ruth for the trip home. That's why you see mostly Ruth for part of the ride, then me, and rarely both of us at the same time. Ruth got ahead of me at one of the tunnels. I knew she'd be waiting at the other end, so I quickly searched YouTube for video of a steam locomotive. I emerged from the tunnel with my light on, playing the sound effects on my phone. I've always wanted to do this since the first time I cycled a rail tunnel. All in all, it was a great afternoon cycling. Despite the sun, it was cool up there. By the end of our ride, the cold had penetrated my pulseless extremities to the point where I was riding in pretty heavy gloves. I'd like to try downhill skiing this winter. This gets me thinking. Extended exposure to cold temperatures might require a little planning. For now, though, it's back down the mountain to our somewhat warmer campsite in the valley below.
Oh, so that was a gorgeous day out.
It was very nice. Getting a little bit chilled now.
Yeah, it's certainly cold.
So the heat from the van will be good on the way down.
Yeah. This is a long way down.
And most of it was on this kidney bashing road.
Logging trucks can go some amazing places.
Check out the big rocks in the road.
Wow, that's like the original mountain there.
Yeah.
This is the good part of the road.
This is the good part of the road. Yay!
Glorious, beautiful pavement.
Smooth
Oh yeah,
pavement.
oh, that's great.
This might be a good time to put the batteries on charge.
I think it is. Yeah, that should be a little bit less bumpy. I was worried I was going to knock them right out of the battery pockets on the way down. There we go. 70 watts. Okay. Pavement. All right. Now we just have to remember our way back home.
Wow, day 7. Day 7 off the grid. And mostly, it's been great. You know, it would have been so easy not to do this. If Ruth had raised just a little doubt when we were digging the scary old van out of the bush, if she told me a sane person wouldn't try this, I probably would have had to agree. Or the day we left, we're scraping ice off the windshield and replanning our route around storms and road closures. Some vacation, right? It's so easy when you can't get what you want to trade something for nothing. But instead, here we are. And this morning, there's no place in the world I'd rather be. That's interesting because this isn't the vacation I wanted. Mine would have had more palm trees. Given the choice, I'd be somewhere diving a tropical reef, not driving an impoundable heap. We could have just stayed home, but we didn't. Speaking of raw deals, it shouldn't be this cold. This was supposed to be our last chance at summer. It's way too early to need winter jackets. But what are you gonna do? We're here in a beautiful place, the sun is shining, and under all the exposure gear, it still feels pretty good. Again, we had a choice. Something we didn't quite want, or nothing. And I think we made the right one. A heart patient recently told me I didn't want an LVAD. Yeah, no kidding. I didn't want one either. I liked life the way it was. But that life was taken away, so it was the LVAD or nothing. Literally, nothing. When I think about the life I've lived since then, the experiences Ruth and I have shared, the memories made, it puts a giant smile on my face every day I wake up on this side of the turf. It's a life nobody would choose, but I'm so glad I have it. We stopped for supper in Banff on our way home. I was caught a little off guard by how crowded it was. Yeah, it's a resort town, but this is supposed to be the slow season.
Well, this is a zoo, isn't it?
less busy than this in October. So we elbowed our way through the busloads of tourists and found ourselves a great meal. Thing is, at night, Banff comes alive. There's a weird energy you can only get from a whole bunch of people, from a whole bunch of different places. It's actually kind of fun, and the place would be less without it. We planned this road trip to figure out how to go off the grid with an LVAD, and we accomplished that. Next summer, we'll be ready for some exciting, more remote adventures.
Yeah, the closer we get to home, the blizzardier it gets.
This is what we were trying to escape. We
Yeah,
escaped it for a few days.
and the wipers are useless.
Yeah. It just kicked us.
Maybe the biggest insight that's come from this trip is not to worry too much when stuff doesn't turn out the way you planned. We left in a blizzard, returned in a bigger blizzard, our route changed, we had unseasonable weather, yet we still managed to take care of an electrically powered heart on the road. And in the end, I think we had just as much fun as if everything went perfect.
Well, that's how that vacation ends.
But at least we had a vacation.
It was a good vacation, even though we come home to a blizzard. Yeah, 7 days on the road, 7 days on van power, and it worked. It was actually a lot like old times.
Like it used to be.
I really enjoyed it.
I did too.
It was fun. It's really good.
You can't control what you're dealt in life, but you can control what you do with it. Savor every second with the ones you love. Don't be afraid to live. Not everything exciting is dangerous, and when it is, there's often a way to change that. No matter how healthy you are, never take tomorrow as a given. We're all far more fragile than we think. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, not everybody gets extra plays at the end of the game. I was lucky. Treat life like you're in the bonus round.